What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're taking a look at the updated gameplay footage, new information and content for Fire Emblem Engage. Guys, this game is looking absolutely incredible and is looking like the next coming of Fire Emblem Awakening mixed in with a little bit of a dash of Fire Emblem Heroes, two of the most influential Fire Emblem games of all time. Now, jumping in, we're going to talk about this brand new gameplay trailer. It seemed more like an overview trailer, although Nintendo didn't call it that. They just called it Fire Emblem Engage, engaging with emblems, Nintendo Switch, but they ran down what you could expect. They talked about confirmed or new characters that we now have 100% confirmation in English about, went over all sorts of new mechanics and systems. So I'm here to break it down and explain to you why this could be the best Fire Emblem game of all time. And once again, the second coming of Fire Emblem Awakening. Now, first and foremost, guys, I think what I love about this game is just the look and polish of it. It has a very fine and kind of anime style but clean look to it. It is rumored that the developers behind the Atelier series are helping out with the graphics in this game, and if that is the case, then you can clearly see it here with the brightness, the vibrancy, and the smoothness of the environments. Now, I do love about this, what you can see in this whole trailer is the snappy menus and transitions. Like, it's really cool to kind of go from that menu screen where you see the two characters, bam, right into a battle. It looks good, it's super slick, and I really like this time they used female Alaire instead of male Alaire because they've been using male Alaire. So now we have a little bit of a look of what female Alaire is, her voice and everything. So that was also awesome. Now, once again, big upgrade over Fire Emblem Three Houses when it comes to the graphics, environments, and details. I love the art style. I really like what they're doing there. But these emblem rings, that is a big part of this game. And it is confirming, at least to me, based off of what the narration said, is that this game is far in the future because they say that the emblem rings are from heroes of ages past. So this is clearly way ahead all of the other mainline Fire Emblem games, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Fire Emblem Fates, and all of that. So it does push the series forward and the story forward. Now we also have, once again, a confirmation of Corrin and Byleth, which we are going to talk about a little bit later here. And also there's a bunch of confirmations of new characters that we haven't really heard too much about. Now, units can be paired with these emblem rings, and what they do is they get increased stats and access to special skills. This is like the main meat and potatoes and hook of this new Fire Emblem game. Now, once you're synced, you'll get extra attacks, very similar to Fire Emblem Awakening when you're paired up with two units. I know that they've done this before, but Fire Emblem Awakening was the first time to where it looked as cool, to where your units kind of come in and defend, or they'll do an extra attack, and it was dynamic. And they're kind of doing the same thing here with Fire Emblem Engage, where they showed side by side what happens when you have a synced attack and what happens when you don't have an emblem ring and not synced. So that's actually really cool, and I think it's absolutely going to help on the harder difficulties. Engaging emblems and fusing them with your units, you'll gain these special weapons, you'll gain special abilities and engage attacks. So one thing that we didn't know beforehand was weapons. So special weapons will only be able to use when you have certain emblem rings on you. So it's something to keep note of when you're going through your emblem rings and kind of what you get based off of what emblem ring you use and for what character. Now, each emblem ring has their own unique abilities, which is awesome, of course. When you engage with Sigurd, they showed off that you can move far further than normal because he is a cavalry expert, and you can also do a special attack where you can run right through enemies in a line and attack all of them, which is really good and also powerful. Also, Celica, for example, can blast multiple foes with magic. She can also teleport to different locations and then also attack. So these emblem rings have souped up specials when you sync with them, and you can do some really devastating attacks. Corrin, for example, can remove hazards and add healing effects in addition to adding water effects to the terrain. Byleth can boost the stats of allies and also give you an extra turn, so like the Dancer class or other classes that Fire Emblem has had before. And I love how these are all themed to the character specifically, since Byleth is a teacher, so therefore, hey, he's teaching you, you can go again, he's adding your stats. That stuff is really cool. So really kind of like a love letter to Fire Emblem fans out there. Now, Lyn is a ruthless attacker in this game when it comes to her Emblem Ring, and she can stop counters on the fly, and it's into a multi-hit special for big damage. Now, the thing about this though, guys, is that it's not forever. The engage status only lasts for 3 turns, but as you continue to battle, your engage skill will replenish. So you have to keep an eye out on your engage meter, and also remember that you have 3 turns for this souped up status when it comes to engaging with your allies. Once you actually like fuse up, you know, you can have them and they'll be able to attack and do different things, and you'll have certain abilities. But if you want to get that super status where you actually engage and kind of fuse together, that's when you have only 3 turns with that. Now, every character in your party can equip any emblem ring. There's a lot of mixing and matching. We know that there's at least 12 emblem rings, probably a bit more, few hidden ones here or there. And with all the different characters that we've seen so far, there is a lot of mixing and matching that you can do to create your own Fire Emblem Engage strategy. So I love that. And remember, each character will have a bond rating with that emblem ring. So the more you use that emblem ring, the higher the bond rating will be, and it will give you access to more special skills and abilities as you play throughout the game. So you have to really think about who you're going to build your bonds with and what emblem rings it is based on how fast or slow that these emblem rings grow with each characters. I have a suspicion that certain emblem rings will grow faster when it comes to a bond based off of that character's specifics or what that character is innately good at. So for example, someone who's already cavalry could bond faster with Sigurd, for example, because he was also cavalry too. So I think that could be a factor, but we don't know that 100% right now at this point. Now, another thing that I really want to mention that I thought was awesome was the animations in this game. I think that the animations in Fire Emblem games are always pretty good, even going back to the old school games on the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 3DS and the Nintendo DS. It always looked good for what they were trying to do, but I think that Fire Emblem Engage kind of takes it up to the next level. I love what they're doing there. The initial O'Leary animation from one of the attacks was absolutely awesome, so they're doing some good stuff here. I think that Fire Emblem Engage, while it might not be as exciting from the outside looking in from something like Three Houses that has this grand scope of 3 campaigns and picking a side and all of these warring nations all one here, here, and here, like I get that, and I've seen that in some of the extended audience or the new Fire Emblem fans. If Fire Emblem Three Houses was your first Fire Emblem game, this one might not look quite as ambitious or good. But as someone who's been playing Fire Emblem for decades now at this point, I can say that Fire Emblem Engage to me is the true meaning of going back to the basics and going back to what worked really well, but then also adding in something that can get more players acclimated with the Fire Emblem franchise, because it takes a page out of the Fire Emblem Heroes playbook. The fact that you can use all these different heroes from many of the games is instantly going to attract old school Fire Emblem fans, which is awesome. But then it also has its own story, its own campaign, its own mechanics, and it borrows some things from Fire Emblem Three Houses, some of the town building aspects or having your base hub area and being able to build that up, but then also Fire Emblem Awakening with the pairing and just overall scope and look of a singular story, but also honing in on what you need to do in that story. There isn't any type of other things that are factoring into it, like separate campaigns like Three Houses did, or separate main characters or people that you can go with on one side or another, which is awesome for games that do that in the Fire Emblem series. But I think that it was really good to kind of get back to the basics and give a really clean, in-depth Fire Emblem experience after Fire Emblem Three Houses had so many development issues and struggles and problems. I think that this was the perfect move for them to kind of get back to it, back to the basics Fire Emblem, but then also expand upon what works well. And I think that Awakening worked really well on the Nintendo 3DS, and Fire Emblem Heroes is obviously the most successful Fire Emblem game of all time when it comes to revenue. I mean, they've made so much on that game, so it makes sense that you kind of leverage both of those and then add in some of those other elements from Fire Emblem games like Fire Emblem Three Houses, some of the town building aspects like I discussed. So to me, this is the perfect way to go with Fire Emblem, and honestly, I talked about if this game is already better than Fire Emblem Three Houses in a previous video. A lot of you guys had stuff to say about that because we hadn't really seen too much more of it, but the more that we get of this game, the more that I say, well, wait a minute here. I think that yes, there's going to be some things that Three Houses or Awakening or Fates or Fire Emblem of old, Path of Radiance or whatever does better here and there, but in overall Fire Emblem experience, this seems like it's going to have all the aspects that make Fire Emblem incredible, including some of the newer things. Yes, you're going to be able to have past characters. Other games have done that. Fire Emblem Awakening and Fates and other games have that, but not necessarily branched into the main storyline. It's always more of a separate side type of things in terms of getting previous Fire Emblem characters. This is baked into the main gameplay and part of the story in such a big way, so that's awesome. But then also, if you look at some of the combat stuff in the game too, even some of the things that Fire Emblem Three Houses had with some of the characters like Stride being able to move further, you can impart that magic on people. Well, now Sigurd can get that done with his own engaging. So I think that they've taken so many different things and kind of rearranged it and done it in a way to where Fire Emblem fans are going to be really excited. So to me, this absolutely has a chance to be the best Fire Emblem game of all time. I always hold Three Houses and also Fire Emblem Awakening. Those are kind of two of my favorites. And then when it comes to old school Fire Emblem, I love Path of Radiance, so to me, can it beat out those games from what I've seen so far? Yes, but we do have to wait and see. The story might not be able to hold up throughout the whole experience. How much content is in the game? What's the replay value like? I think that there's many things that constitutes what makes a great Fire Emblem game. And content, story, setup, scenarios, side dialogue, these are all things that really help out. So we're gonna have to wait and see if all that stuff is really good. But based off of the core mechanics and gameplay that I've seen so far with this, what they're doing with these emblem rings, what they're doing with the pairings, what they're doing so far with the stats and the classes and the super moves and the abilities, all this stuff looks really fun and good, especially for Fire Emblem veterans out there, but also for newcomers that maybe just got in with Fire Emblem Heroes or maybe just want to learn more about the Fire Emblem franchise and see who these characters are. I think this is a great start at so many different levels here. So I'm excited. I'm super excited for this game. It comes out January 20th. Pre-orders already live digitally if you want to go out there and pick it up. So I think that it's going to be really good for players out there. And once again, I was thoroughly shocked by how awesome this game is looking, especially with the update. I do want to harp on one more thing real quick before we go here, guys, and that's some of the graphics and what they've done there. I know we talked about it a bit before in the video, but the graphics in this game are looking very good. I think it was one of the things the developers said, hey, we have to actually fix this from Fire Emblem Three Houses, because Three Houses, I feel they spent a lot of time making sure the game didn't break and glitch out when it comes to all the different little mechanics that are in that game, the different campaigns, the different characters. So I feel that graphics weren't necessarily a big part of that, especially environmental graphics. I think that the character models were okay, but even if you start comparing the character models and what they've done here with Fire Emblem Three Houses, Fire Emblem Engage definitely is better, but it definitely seems like a little bit of a smaller scale game. It's more, I would say, in itself and compact, but still going to be able to offer that nice experience like Fire Emblem Awakening, for example. Three Houses offers the most content out of any Fire Emblem game by far, but I think that some other things in the game suffer because of that. I think that Fire Emblem Engage is a more focused Fire Emblem experience, so it can really elevate a lot of the things that it does well and minimize its weaknesses once we actually get our hands on the game. So I think it's going to be super cool to see exactly how everything plays out here. Excited for the story too. I think the story is going to be really good. Apparently other people can use the Engage and Emblem rings as well, so how's that going to turn out? We saw Marth get crazy evil at one point or get possessed, so there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff that happens, and it's going to be up to the hero, of course, to save it, but we'll see exactly what they do there. But I'm thoroughly excited, man. January 20th cannot come soon enough. So what are your thoughts on Fire Emblem Engage for the Nintendo Switch? Are you warming up to the game? Still not sold yet? What do you think about this brand new trailer that they showed off? What are you most excited about for the game? let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we will see you for the next video. Peace.